if I'm not like trying to break the game or like do something different than everybody else, what's the point of playing?
You're talking about playing to find the exploits.
People would be like, you can't play Magic like this. And I'm just like, watch me. For me, Magic has always been about the mathematical puzzle of it. Streaming over the years has really made me a better person. The number one reason it is to entertain myself. And I think that that's a really healthy approach as a content creator. Because if you want to be doing this for a long time, you have to be invested yourself.
This week on Humans and Magic, I'm hanging out with Deathsie. Deathsie is a Magic the Gathering Twitch streamer and a limited format specialist. This is not actually the first time we chatted, but it's the first time we recorded face-to-face. If you like watching face-to-face interviews, please let me know, drop a comment, and I'll do my best to do more of them in the future. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Deathsie. Who is Deathsie?
Okay. Welcome everybody. My name is Deathsie. I'm a Magic the Gathering streamer, and in the past I did some esports television work in London. I did esports commentating. I played professional Hearthstone back in the day as well. These days, full-time Magic the Gathering, and I play only limited, and I stream only Magic the Gathering Arena for the most part.
That's such a simplified summary of what you do. Weren't you also a Tetris master? I think I remember that.
Actually, like over a decade ago, my friends and I over at harddrop.com, that's one of the biggest Tetris communities out there. Okay. We all went to the Hearthstone World Championship together and stuff. So like back in the day, I wrote the book on a lot of the T-spins and guides that people use these days and the strategies that people use these days. Okay. So like now everyone is so good at Tetris, right? But
you did some foundational work to start those techniques. Kind of like in any game like Smash, now there's like things that people take for granted. Exactly. But back then it was like new territory, right?
Exactly. It was brand new. People didn't talk about it. People don't even talk about it that much these days. Some of the strategies that are laid out. So stuff in Tetris like timing, right? So in versus Tetris, you can actually time in a way that just increases your efficiency and increases like your power. So I'll give you an example, okay? So back in the day, I was always known as a small, like a very slow player. Okay, so the amount of pieces that I drop is probably about half as fast as how fast like the other good players are playing. Okay, but I could still keep up because my moves were so efficient and I timed things so well. Okay. So that was kind of my claim to fame back then. Mm-hmm. And people were like, dude, I don't get it. Like, this guy's dropping half the pieces I am, right? It's basically a 2v1, and I can't beat him, So that was, like, something that I thought was super cool. And I've brought that sort of philosophy, just a different angle, different approach to every game I play. One of the reasons that I got into Magic the Gathering is that when I first started playing, when I came back to Magic the Gathering with the advent of Magic Arena, I was like, dude, actually nobody knows how to play the game properly. Like everyone's following all these old heuristics from like 20 years ago, right? And even the pros are still propagating
bread or some of this?
Yeah, like bread, right? I literally never drafted thinking about picking up, I need evasion, I need removal. I'm just like, dude, just pick the good cards, pick the good cards and go from there.
So why do you think that is? Do you think there's some sort of intuition that Magic players feel, so they feel the need to go to these sideboard guides or heuristics that are just, maybe like you said, they could be outdated, but they don't but whereas for you, you're kind of pulling from a frame of reference from other parts of, I wouldn't even say gaming, but just other parts of life.
Yep.
And like, is that the primary thing? It's like Magic players are so into being Magic that they don't see the big picture almost?
Yes, so I would agree with that. I would say that that's the number one reason. Generally, Magic Gathering players are very diehard, and that's like a great quality as well, I suppose. But the thing is that the way I look at it is that a lot of times it's very narrow-minded, right? So people, like Magic players, be like, oh, Hearthstone, oh my gosh, that's like a fake Magic the Gathering, Legends of Runeterra, like just all these games, and they're like, oh, Magic's the best, right? And I won't touch anything else. So I think that
how do you know it's the best if you haven't touched the other?
Yeah, exactly. So like this sort of philosophy mentality is not like as open-minded as I prefer. I think a lot of times my biggest level up moments in Magic was actually taking time off of Magic. Going to other things, growing in life a little bit, playing some other games. Then I come back and I'm like, actually I can incorporate some of these strategies from my other games from life into Magic, and then my Magic gameplay gets better as well. So it's leveling up over time. So yeah, a lot of the things that I've done on my stream over the last 5 years in limited has been sort of shocking to the world because
you've broken certain formats.
Yep.
You've broken certain cards, I should say, and also formats as
exactly.
result, right?
So like people would be like, "Oh, you can't play Magic like this," and I'm just like, "Watch me," you know. And I will say that I have been very pleasantly surprised because a lot of times I didn't think it was going to work either, you know. But I was like, okay, well, I didn't wake up today to draft a black-white deck, you know. Like I want to aspire to something a little bit greater, at least, right? Let's start from 5 colors.
I really want to dig into this,
okay,
because I have this belief that in Magic, sometimes the bad way to call it is groupthink, but the good way to call it is like you're forcing something into reality. Do you think sometimes maybe these strategies become real because enough people just try it to the point that you're forcing it to, like, obviously you can't play something terribly bad, but like I feel like at least in this sort of metagame concept of Magic or limited Magic, you can force certain things into reality, especially when you have enough people or like your audience like mobilized to then do the same and just make that real. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
Like, that's the thing, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think that sometimes the sort of strategies that I propagate are somewhat memey. I think like they might not be the most competitive thing, but if you play it really well, it has a good shot, right? Whereas other strategies, and the example I'll give is Clear the Mind in Ravnica Allegiance. It basically was a deck that you have 2 copies of Clear the Mind, which is 3 mana, blue sorcery, which you shuffle your graveyard into your deck and you draw a card. Like really, just
just innocent cantrip.
Yeah, super innocent card, and it's so innocent that actually it's one of the cards that you brush off as unplayable, right? Like you're looking at all the cards of a new set.
D or an F, yeah.
It's probably like an F plus, something like that, right? Like on a rating scale. But so with the help of some other people in the community, Ryan Sachs, namely, he was like, hey, have you seen this strategy? And I'm like, dude, this thing is impossible, right? Like you can't have a deck like that just like tries to shuffle your deck. Like Magic doesn't work like that, especially limited, right? So anyways, I did get curious one day and I was like, all right, well, let's try this thing. And I ended up going down the most insane rabbit hole ever. So it was like, I think 2 months of me just forcing Clear the Mind decks. And Clear the Mind decks, they look incredibly different from one another. Some of the weirdest looking decks were the versions that had 0 creatures in it. Okay. So you have 0 creatures and you just have all removal spells and card draw spells. That's it. And what ends up happening is that your opponents who followed Bread, right, they picked up all this removal, they have all this evasion, and none of it does anything.
It's blanked.
Yeah, they're all blanked. So people are sitting with a full hand of 7 cards that they can't do anything.
So there's an aspect of virtual card advantage.
Yep, exactly. So really, really cool stuff. And basically my attitude to a game is that, okay, if I'm not like trying to break the game or like do something different than everybody else, what's the point of playing? Like, I might as well just watch people play, right? And Magic the Gathering was a place where I could do that. Some other games that I'm into, for example, like Hearthstone Battlegrounds, there are players who are already good enough that they found out all of the crazy things that you do, right? So I don't have a place there. So I can play for fun, but it's not like I would.
You're talking about playing to find the exploits.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the way that you should approach both life and also video games, right? Like, what's the most broken thing, and how do I abuse it, right? And oftentimes, like, that will also be the fun thing that looks crazy. It'll be like some crazy 5-color deck, or something that people will just be like, what are you doing, right? And then obviously I'll trophy with it or whatever, and then people will be like, everything I knew about Magic was a lie.
How maybe this goes into a question of what are your goals or ongoing goals? Because I feel like as a streamer or as a creator, you're also having to create some sort of
value to your audience. So isn't it kind of risky to, or is it to entertain yourself? I'm trying to figure out, like, when you are trying to break it, is that because now it's become the Deathsie brand? Or are people, like, what happens if someone is just trying to watch your stream because they're trying to get better at limited? There's that level 1 kind of viewer.
True.
So would that be going away from that if you're always trying these new things, maybe to entertain yourself or to scratch your own itch of exploits, right? But wouldn't that also have some sort of tension with, like, the reason why people tune in?
Yes, so that's a really good question, I think. The number one reason it is to entertain myself, and I think that that's a really healthy approach as a content creator, because if you want to be doing this for a long time, you have to be invested yourself, right?
You have to enjoy it, right?
Yeah, you have to enjoy it. Like, people can find different ways to enjoy it, of course, but you know, if for a new Magic Gathering set for the whole 3 months, I woke up and I just drafted the same, like, red-white deck over and over again because I think that's the best, like, I might as well go find something better to do with my life.
Okay. Maybe 17 Land says that's a de facto best objective strategy.
Exactly. And I'm like, well, that's not what I'm here for, right? But I do offer a tier list at deathsie.com. And all of these are for the new player or, like, the average player.
Yeah, they're very good. I've used some of them.
Yeah. And my philosophy is that, okay, well, yeah, you might not see what the normal deck looks like on my channel through me, but you can see it in the opponents I'm playing against, right? Like, I'm always playing at high levels or whatever on the ladder, and I'm like, okay, well, you can watch the boring decks on the other side, right? Like, I'll do the fun stuff, and then the normal stuff is over there. So there's a little bit something for everybody, but I think that my personality is probably a bit of a turnoff to most of the Magic the Gathering viewers. Cause
you think so?
I do think so. Like, people like the Reed Duke, you know, people like the LSV. I mean, LSV is, like, very out there and entertaining as well. But I do think that Magic the Gathering viewers generally like, I don't know, the stoic, the normal thinking person that they can relate to and understand, right?
Like a white collar Magic player, just someone who looks like, because I don't know, it's funny saying this because, like, I've known you for a while.
That's what I think. Yeah.
You don't strike me as someone who I would just meet in an LGS. It doesn't look like you're mixing in that.
That's true.
Crowd, you know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
So a lot of times back in the day, I would go to my local game store, and if there wasn't a draft on, like, I'm just chilling. I'm just hanging out. Like, back then, I used to smoke cigarettes and stuff. You know, I used to smoke in the parking lot or whatever.
It's changed to vapes or it's changed to something else.
Yep, exactly. So it is a weird thing because everybody likes Magic for a different reason, right? And I think that's one of the main issues that Magic has faced in recent years. So many different formats. People are playing all these things, right? And even though, you know, we all might be Magic players, we all are such different demographics of people that we actually don't mingle, right? And I think that is a problem. That is definitely a problem. Like, the more formats they create, right, the more they segregate a community. So it is a very difficult dynamic. But yeah. So once again, for me, Magic has always been about the mathematical sort of puzzle of it, right? So limited format, there's a very definite sort of possibilities within the format, right? And I need to figure that out. But it's a mathematical for me. Like, I don't care about the lore. I don't care about the art. I don't care about Commander or whatever.
The flavor stuff doesn't interest.
Yeah, the flavors, like Magic. So
it's a puzzle to be solved. That's what.
Exactly. Like, I'm much more of a fan of like Pokemon art or Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever, right? Magic art just doesn't appeal to me in general, and the story, the lore doesn't really appeal to me. So kind of weird that I've ended up becoming a Magic streamer out of all things, but it was a place I could fit in.
What makes you commit as you have to Magic? Is it just that there's at least a large enough base for what you doing, what you want to do, your expression? Or, like, what's tethering you to Magic, I guess?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I think a big part of it is just I've been doing it for so long that it's somewhat comfortable. And at least in Magic, I'm a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think the most real answer I can give you for that is just that I haven't moved on yet. I haven't found something that that captivates me away from that. But I am always looking. You know, like whenever I'm not streaming, I'm working on other projects. Other games hire me as a consultant, right? And
you're trying other games. And has there been maybe you don't have to go to specifics, but just in general, have you found there to be some sort of pattern of, you know, is there some game that's close enough to it, or are there always things that are kind of holding that game back?
Yeah, it's really hard because all card game players, whether you're a Hearthstone player, Magic player, Runeterra player, whatever, right? Even poker players, okay? We've all been waiting for like the next game to dive into. Legends of Runeterra came out, all right, that wasn't it. Artifact came out, okay, that wasn't it. You have just I mean a countless number of games that have come out and it just wasn't quite right, like it didn't have that sort of a I don't know if you know much about Hearthstone. Back when Hearthstone was booming,
a little bit,
that was like a global phenomenon, right? It created so many huge personalities, people like Forsen, just so much greatness came out of that. And we're all just kind of waiting for the next thing. There are some things on the horizon, and you know, I will choose to not mention it because I think a lot of Magic players hate this area. You guys might be able to guess this area of gaming that is related to, you know, money as people may perceive as fake.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's also the challenging thing is that. I mean, I don't know exactly if you're touching on it, but my view on it is that I'll just say it. I feel like Magic players can be very close-minded in certain respects. And maybe that's as general as I'll leave it at.
I think it's just people in general.
It's people in general. Like, there's something comforting about whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's you're streaming Magic or you're playing Magic. And it's just like, it's hard to leave that comfort zone, and there's not really any incentive to leave the comfort zone, and it's just like people want to believe what they want to believe, and that's just how it is, right?
Exactly. Like for me, I mean, I every once in a while I'll do some crazy things. So there was 1 month a few years back where I just stopped streaming Magic, and I streamed 1 month of full-time Hearthstone Battlegrounds.
I remember that.
And my channel basically died, you know, as expected.
Yeah.
But
they're not coming to you for that, and then they're just surprised, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it is weird, though, because there are a lot of games that I play at the highest level. I would say that there's been, like, probably 13 games or so over the years that I've played at the absolute highest level, like a top 10 or whatever. But people don't care. People don't come watch me for that, you know?
I mean, I care that you... I think it's fascinating that you were doing these things in Tetris and in Hearthstone and other things. But, I mean... It's hard, right? I mean, you're not even when you introduce yourself, you're not like, I did all these things. I would have been interested, but it's like, I don't want to, maybe most people can't handle like an encyclopedia list of there's like 30 things that exemplify what I'm about as a person, and it's just hard.
Exactly. It kind of reminds me of when people ask me where I'm from, right? And, or sometimes people ask me where I've been, and I'll be like, are you ready? Like, you have like a
few paragraphs.
You have like 10 minutes here. Like, I can break it down real quick, kind of thing. But my lore is a bit messy.
You're from Texas, right, or Houston?
Okay, so the very, very quick version. Born and raised in Southern California, in Irvine, like LA area, and then my family moved all around SoCal. Like, we moved SoCal, probably like 14, 15 different places. And then my family ended up moving to Houston, Texas. Then I ended up moving to San Jose, California, so North California. And then came back to Houston. And then I went to school in England for 5 years.
That's right.
4 years Northeast England, 1.5 years in London. And then since then, I've been like... I lived in South Korea for a year. I lived in Prague for like 3 months or something. I've been to Dubai and Thailand, and now I live in Thailand. And now I'm here in Shanghai with you.
Yeah, it's for those who don't know, we're recording in Shanghai, not actual Thailand, where you're normally based now, right? But what's it like living in Thailand? Because I've not lived there.
Sure. Thailand is really amazing for somebody like me. I'm a vegetarian, so vegetarian for almost 17 years now, and it's unless you're in LA or New York or maybe Austin, Texas, it's really hard to find good vegetarian food. So the food has been phenomenal, and that's been the number one reason why I've stayed there. Secondly, is that a lot of my friends come in and out of Bangkok a lot because they're traveling all around Asia.
So it's a hub.
Yeah, it's a hub, and I kind of foresee it being like almost like the next Silicon Valley of sorts, because the quality of life is so good, right? So things are like relatively cheap, right? Food is amazing. Some of the best food in the world. I think it rivals Vegas for food.
Okay.
Right. So that's really incredible. And then I've also got a lot of friends who just live there as well, like a bunch of crypto millionaire guys, like,
okay.
And crypto millionaire guys, poker guys, kind of thing. So
what do you do in Thailand? Like, I'm just trying to get a sense. Maybe it's intersection of what's available and what you like to do. Like when you're not streaming, like what are things that you like to do?
So I've been pretty busy for the last 2 months or so. It's basically streaming. Then after streaming, I'm locked up in calls for the entire day. Mm-hmm. So I'm like working on stuff. I'm learning up on random texts and stuff. Like I read up on blockchain, crypto, whatever. Mm-hmm. Right?
Just studying or learning stuff on your own.
Yep. Okay. Or I'm like reading up on philosophy, like philosophy or history or something. Mm-hmm. Learning some Thai, stuff like that. So anyways, I try to fill my time pretty well. And obviously I just have like me time where I'm just like DJing, watching Twitch or whatever. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, like I don't leave the house. But every once in a while, my friends will invite me out or something. We'll go out to clubs. We'll go out to like a house party or something, like a condo party. Or my friends will invite me out to eat. And then we'll go out and eat. And every once in a while, I have friends who come and visit me in Bangkok, and they stay at my condo. I have an extra room. And then whenever they're in town, like I'll go out with them. We'll see the town.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't think it's anything special, but
I like it like that. I wish I was. I mean, I don't really wish, but I think it may actually make sense for me to like live there too. Someplace like that where the cost of living is much lower, I expect, than Shanghai, which is crazy fucking expensive. Yep. And I'm just indoors all the time doing my stuff anyways. Yep, exactly. So it's like, why not just be in Bangkok or Bali or
exactly.
So
and one of the biggest things for me as well is that even when I was in elementary school, okay, I hated this sort of American philosophy of the 401k, right? The 401k will like work for like 40, 50, 60 years or whatever, or until you're that old and then retire and then travel the world. And I'm just like, why are you
just travel the world now?
Yeah, just travel the world now, figure out how to do it. I get people have family and stuff, right? And that's probably one of the most legitimate reasons for me to understand people not like going out and I don't know, seeing whatever they want to see, doing whatever they want to do.
You're talking about the group that like doesn't have those family ties, but they still feel tethered to some place out of some sort of tradition or something.
Yeah, tradition or habit, comforts, whatever. And most of the time, the way I look at it is that we're all just making excuses for ourselves, right? Like, why can't I do this thing? Why can't I learn an extra language? Why can't I, I don't know, learn how to just basically do anything? Like, people are putting it off until a later time. And I don't believe in that. Like, just go do it, figure it out. Just go do it, figure it out. Like, not everything's going to go right. But what are you waiting for, right?
Are you thinking about indefinitely being in Thailand, or do you have some other places lined up?
Yeah, so I renewed my contract. I'll be in Bangkok for at least another year. After that, I kind of want to move to Vietnam. So I've actually never been to Vietnam, but I'm Vietnamese American. Mm-hmm. I'm fluent in speaking, reading, writing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I've never been to Vietnam.
Okay. That will be a huge asset for when you do travel there.
Yep. Exactly. So I want to live in Vietnam for at least a few years. Basically, so I'm actually 32 years old right now. Okay. And I plan on like throughout my 40s that I'll just be living like all around the world. So I want to live in Vietnam. I kind of want to live a little bit in Shanghai, maybe like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
And while I'm here, I want to learn Chinese pretty well, like basic reading and write, like basic reading. I don't know about writing, like writing is another thing, but basic reading and decent speaking kind of thing. And then after that, I'm not exactly. Oh, after that, I also want to at some point move to Argentina as well. So that's on the other side of the world. So South America.
Is that because friends, or you just want to check it out?
So I have two really good friends there, and their brothers. So he's actually okay. So one brother is actually the biggest streamer in South America, I think. So he has this event called the Kosku Army Awards every year, and I think that event on Twitch gets like, I actually don't know, so you guys can check at home. But I think it's like 1 million viewers or something, 1 million concurrent viewers live on Twitch.
Pretty big.
Yep. And then his brother plays professional basketball there. So they've been my really good friends since like the start of COVID. I think even before that, actually, before that. And they became big fans of my channel because they love drafting in Magic.
How do you make friends through streaming relationships and then converting that? I mean, this sounds so transactional, but that's not the point. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do you get to know somebody from online or mutual appreciation into then IRL relationships?
Yeah, that's a very good question because it's something that I haven't thought about, but it's really, I mean, it is an important thing, right? Because not everybody, like, usually relationships online kind of stay that way, right? So it's like it stays as a non relationship. But I guess for me, I don't know. I just look at everybody kind of the same. If you're a multimillionaire or if you make like 30K a year, like what's the difference? What's the difference? So if you're a big streamer or if you're a streamer at all, what's the difference between that person just being a normal person that you just met?
I think the difference is how that level of wealth, or either having or not having it, it changes how they perceive the world. It changes their ego, whether a good or bad way. So I would have to expect that. I don't know. You can tell me, like, does that, or do you find that there's very down to earth millionaires as well as there being like incredibly egotistical non-millionaires, thousandaires, or people living from paycheck to paycheck? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, people gotta do what they gotta do, but don't you find that, like, it's just in the world that
I do.
People, like, wealth, it doesn't bring happiness, but it inflates the sense of self, right?
Sure. Yeah, so the way I see it is that all of that is not my problem, So the way that I'll go about it, and it's also the most efficient way, in my opinion, like a big part of it is efficiency for me. Like, I don't want to think about all that stuff when I'm meeting somebody. Like, I'll just meet them, and then if I end up liking them and we vibe, then that's good.
Just try to face value, like, straight up. Like,
exactly.
Can I vibe with you?
Yeah.
Like, are we connecting, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so that's a big part of it for me, and I think a lot of people end up appreciating that. So, I mean, again, I'm just guessing, right? Like, I don't actually know. I think that leads people to, I don't know, to trust me or like me or something. And then, I don't know. And then one thing leads to another, like we chat and stuff. Like I just chat to them like they're a normal ass person,
There's probably something to it because oftentimes people, if they're in a certain status, they think that others are maybe trying to leverage something, or they're trying to get something out of it.
Exactly.
And if you come across as not wanting to do that, that generally is well received.
Right? True. Yeah, because the thing is that one of my philosophies in life as well is that I generally don't need anything from anyone. So, and that doesn't come from a place of arrogance or whatever, I think, at least, but it's more like I'm not looking to benefit from anybody, right? Like, I'm not trying to leverage their popularity or their wealth or whatever. So, for example, whenever in the past when I hang out with my millionaire friends and stuff, we go traveling, like I pay for everything myself, and I'm not a rich person, I think
you pay for your share. You're not expecting them to take care of it, right?
Exactly. Because I just think that's super unhealthy. I don't want to be someone's minion. I don't want to be like mooching off of people or anything. And if I can't afford it, then I just don't go. Right? Like that's kind of the way I look at it.
I mean, everybody has their group of friends or people who become better friends because you're connecting. But of the people that you meet via, and I'll loosely call it the Twitch community.
Okay.
Is there some sort of pattern? Like, are people generally pretty good? Are they full of like are they full of it? Are they like have you? I'm trying to figure out if there's like just. Okay, so my personal philosophy is just, if I can say it in like as short as possible, is that generally I think people suck.
Okay.
Generally I think people let you down.
I see.
This is just my very negative, cynical take.
Okay.
And so maybe like if you look at like everybody being kind of not that great, then you got to really work to find people that are actually decent people.
True,
and I'm assuming you found your tribe, and I'm wondering if Twitch fits my cynical description or not.
I see. Okay, so the way that I look at it is a little bit different. There are a few people that I vibe with super well. Like people that I want to be friends with for life. Like whatever happens, if you're broke, come sleep on my floor. Like I'll give you money for like living until you get back on your feet or whatever.
Like a brother or sister.
Yeah, exactly. So actually here now that I'm in Shanghai is because basically someone that I consider my sister, she's a streamer named Waterlin. And I don't know, like we just understand each other and like vibe so well that that is like an exceptional friend for me, right? But other friends, so I don't think of it as people who are good or people who suck. I'm just like people who are great, and then everyone else is good, kind of thing, right? So, but I also agree that people suck. So it's a little bit of everything.
Maybe I shouldn't be saying this.
Yeah,
I got a show like Humans of Magic, but it's like sometimes I feel that it's not magic community in general, but just humanity.
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned in life is how to manage our own expectations. So I guess for me, I don't have an expectation, which you might be like, all right, well that's kind of sad, right? But I don't think so. I think it's a very functional thing. I spend my time and my thoughts on other things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's normal. People suck. Like, there are people out there who want to rob you. There are people out there who want to do bad things. America itself is crazy. But at the same time, I think that everybody in their own way tries to be like what they think is a good person, what they think is right. Right. So the world's a big place. Just find people that you get along with.
I remember you telling me about that. Like, in everybody's own mind, they're the protagonists,
exactly.
And they're lawful, good, lawful. They're not evil.
Exactly.
They're trying to do the best they can, and it's just how we look at other people through our lenses.
Exactly. So the way that I look at it is that there are 8 billion people in the world, and there are a bunch of differing opinions about everything, right? And that's one of the problems with the internet right now. Like you can find some sort of article to support any claim you want, right? So the only thing that you can do is find people that you get along with, treat them well, treat yourself well as well, figure out what you want in life. And that's basically all we can do. That's like the amount of agency that everybody has, Yeah. That's all we can do. And for me, that's enough. It's enough. I don't need to save the world or anything.
Let's talk a bit about parasocial relationships, or the relationship you have with your fans or people who follow you on Twitch or in the community, right? How do you cultivate that? How do you communicate? Okay,
so very similar to how I approach like new people I meet, right? Or big streamers, small streamers, just new people I meet, okay? Is that I treat them exactly the same as well. So my viewers, right? I talk to them like a normal person, right? I don't see them as just like a name in the chat or whatever. A lot of my long-term viewers, for example, like I remember their family dynamics. I remember if they have pets. I remember where they're from, right? And for my long-term subscribers, whenever we're in the same city and they want to meet up, they want to take me out for food or something, the answer is always yes. Like, I'm not putting on a persona online.
Has it ever gotten weird when you meet up?
I have some interesting stories that I'll probably share in privates with you.
Okay.
But none of them have been bad.
Not bad intentioned kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, actually,
or just bad.
I would say that none of them are bad at all. None of them are bad at all.
Maybe it was beyond what you expected, but it wasn't. That doesn't mean it's bad. Right?
Yeah. Like, I have a lot of interesting stories, but none of them are bad. Like, I would say none of them are bad. And I think that one of the things is that my viewers kind of understand where it's like, I personally believe that these parasocial relationships are good. Okay, while most streamers shy away from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying show up to my front door, right? Like, we're not, we're not friends like that.
Yeah.
But we are friends. Like, we spend so much time together, especially during COVID, right? People were watching me, seeing me, hanging out with me, talking to me more than they did with their families. Because everyone was separated, right? So it's like, okay, well, if we can't have a parasocial relationship, why not? Right? That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Are you creating any kind of separation, right? Like, maybe there's things that you just don't want to talk about publicly. For example, like the philosophy, or maybe the other games, or like where you live. And I mean, obviously, I know where you live, so that's probably not. That's probably not out of bounds. But like, are there things like that you consciously try to create a separation?
Barrier. Short answer is no.
Okay.
But
that's dangerous, right?
So I don't think it's dangerous because I'm the gatekeeper, right? If anybody asks me something that is too far, and I can't even think of what a question is too far off the top of my head right now, but I'm sure that there's some. But I will just answer it in a way that I can, right? So one is like, how much money do I make, right? How much money do I make? And I talk about money like very freely, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I've said it before in the past, but I don't feel like saying it right now, right? So I will tell them that.
You have people ask you crazy shit like that, like what's your net worth and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course, like all the time. Yeah. People ask me the craziest shit.
As a North American, not as a Chinese person, but as a North American, that seems way kind of offensive. I mean, very direct.
But another one of my philosophies is that things are about as offensive as you make it. So my perception and my response to something is actually really important as well. In a way we can actually change reality by changing our mindset and our philosophy and how we approach something. Okay, so I can give you an example. Somebody in chat once was like, what the hell did they say? They were something like they commented about my ethnicity or whatever, right? And they were like, dude, where are you from? Like, you look super Filipino, man, right? And then like I could get mad at it, but I was just like, hey, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, nothing came out of it. Nobody got upset. I didn't even get upset, right? And everything was fine. Went on in my stream. So, like, in the past, okay, I was not like that. In the past, I would get upset about a bunch of shit. I would get upset when people are like, oh, hey, like they'll ask me an honest question about magic, okay, and I'll get pissed off at them.
And it just sets you off?
Yeah, and it'll set me off. And, over time, I was like, why do I... Like,
so what did you do? What changed? How did you work on that?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly where it started, but I had some realization at some point where... with not only stream, just with any relationship, any situation, you can actually navigate it in a way. There are other lines to take, other lines to take that lead to different outcomes. Okay, and it won't always work, but I think that this is a skill that people can practice, that the better you get at it, the easier your life is.
I hope no one regularly watching your show. I mean, I guess they will listen to this, but I am curious. I have to ask, like, are there things that people do in chat or in these kind of situations that actually set you off still?
That's a good question.
Or have you trained yourself to be, like, just immune?
Yeah, I want to say that nothing sets me off anymore, actually. Basically, nothing sets me off. Like, some of my longest viewers are people in the past who used to get banned, like, every day. Like, they would get timed out in my chat every single day because they were being like toxic or whatever. Over time, they're chill now. They're like my biggest supporters.
Well, that's because they've been banned a couple times, so they know they can't do it, right?
No. Now they still do it, but we just laugh about it, and I just let them be.
Okay, so your suspension ban policy, I'll call it, has gotten more relaxed.
Oh yeah, really, really relaxed. Like, gosh, oh my gosh, let me try to remember here.
You remember the last time you actually banned somebody, or for
okay, yes, I do remember. So now my average is maybe like one ban every 2 months or something like that. Okay, and so the current draft format on Magic Arena right now is actually the return of Khans of Tarkir. And somebody in my chat, so I flooded out, right? And somebody in my chat was like, "That's what you deserve for playing 18 lands." Okay, that's what you deserve for playing 18 lands. And
dagger.
Yeah, and I actually got a little bit upset, and I was like, "Hey, man, all right, I'm gonna run the restroom. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to defend yourself."
Because that one extra land is the reason that you drew like 4 in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that one extra land.
Exactly.
That's exactly it.
And I mean, like, regardless of the reason, right? I was like, this is like super snarky, whatever. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes here. You can defend yourself. Okay, I will let you defend yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
your defense.
If your defense is not good enough, or you don't respond back, permaban. All right.
Right.
And I thought it was pretty fair. Right.
Wow.
That was pretty fair.
That's
Anyways,
a pretty novel way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I came back, no response, permaban. Hey,
Okay.
out of here. That's it.
Okay.
Move on.
Yeah. Damn.
But I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. A lot of times, especially in the past, that's gotten me in trouble, I guess. But I've gotten better at doing it, I think.
So you told me to watch one of your recent VODs, and maybe we don't have to go into specifics, but there was a tricky line in your thing where people were, it was like a somewhat like political ideological topic.
Okay.
And you kind of just like, you kept, because I watched it, you kept on playing Magic, and you still kind of, I don't want to say deflected, but you managed to like smooth it out. And I think I remember you saying that in that stream, it's just like, you're supposed to allow, as long as we're all reasonable, we can talk about anything.
Yep.
Like, how did you develop that position? Was there through day one, or did it get refined?
It definitely got refined. And I think that streaming over the years has really sort of made me a better person. And streaming is a weird thing, okay?
That is a rare thing to hear.
It is. But what I will say is that generally, your mental health when it comes to streaming, it comes and goes in cycles, right? Like, at least that's how it's true for me, and I see that with a lot of my friends as well. Where it'll be like, okay, you get to a really bad spot, like you're burnt out, you're like stressed out about everything because, well, streaming's stressful. Like, numbers go up and down all the time, right? You don't have much of a consistency. You don't have like a promise of what's going to happen after you finish streaming.
You might be in a bad limited environment or whatever.
Yep, exactly. Like this year we had Brexit all we won, which to me is actually not even a Magic the Gathering set, okay? I would rather go and like wipe the floor, do the dishes. I would rather literally do anything than play that format ever
Really?
again.
It was that bad? I didn't play it.
Yeah, it was so bad. Anyway, so like at various times your mental health will be up and down, but whenever you come back from it, you're much healthier, much stronger, and it was almost like training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I kind of see it as like I don't know, Gohan and Trunks play like in the hyperbolic time chamber or something, right? Like doing super high gravity like fitness, and they're working on their bodies. It's basically the same thing but with your mind, I think. So yeah, over time that's been refined a lot. I've gotten a lot better at speaking, I think. I've gotten a lot better at talking to people and like navigating, dealing with sponsors as well. You know, before I got on my current agency called S Tier, and shout out to Sean, by the way, just one of the best agents in the world. I used to negotiate my own sponsorship and stuff. It's a super normal thing, right? And you have to learn how to like talk big about yourself sometimes, you know, because no one else is gonna do it.
Yeah, no one else is gonna be your biggest fan, right?
Exactly. So that's a really important thing for me. Be your own biggest fan. And also be a big fan of your friends as well, right? So I think that those are two important things for me, but yeah.
I think it's really, isn't it naturally hard, I mean, to be genuinely happy for other people who are also streamers? Because as much as we like to say the pie is big enough, like it does feel like there's a bit of zero-sumness to it.
True. Okay, I see.
I mean, whether it's, you're all trying to get that one sponsorship slot. I know it's all in a vacuum. It doesn't really work out like that in practice because we're human, we're emotional.
Yep.
Like we don't always think that way. But if you think about it, like there really are just like a finite number of things that you can achieve as a streamer, as someone who's sponsored, as a creator, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've learned how to think about it differently over time. So in Magic, for example, the market share or like the pool of actual watchers on Twitch is pretty low, right? Like at any given point, we'll have like anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 people. Okay, and that's like pretty sad if you look at like some of the bigger games, and if you look at how big of a game Magic is, right? You have like I don't know how many millions of players in the world, but you only have 4,000 to 6,000 people watching on Twitch. That's like pretty depressing, right?
Why do you think that is?
First of all, I think Wizards is terrible at like marketing and understanding like the value of streamers. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm a streamer and I want more money from Wizards.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. But the way I look at it is actually, well, we are your biggest marketing people, right? Like we're streaming all the time. New people come to our channel. We represent your game. Okay. And obviously, you don't want to give too much powers to creators or whatever, but you can't deny the fact that these people are promoting your game all the time, like full time, right? We're way more valuable than the XQC or whatever that you like had a one-off sponsorship with it, right? We're doing this full time. A lot of us over 2,000 hours a year, right? And so keep us happy a little bit, keep us involved. If you can't involve us, send us, have communication. Be like, hey, we tried to include you, but we couldn't because of, well, yeah, sure, that's fine. Go on,
Yeah.
But so to give an example, I've tried contacting the creator manager a lot this year. I think I sent like 7 emails. Got into Twitter DMs, like they follow me on social media.
And what happened? Just crickets?
Yeah, just crickets. Nothing. Right? And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't get invited to the ambassador program or whatever. And I'm like top 5 biggest streamers, Magic streamers on Twitch. Right? And I'm like, am I getting like the Jeff Hoogland here or what? Like.
And you're being blacklisted?
Yeah, but am I getting blacklisted or something? And it's a weird thing. I mean, I do believe that it's important to be respectful to other people as well. Like even me, I should be a little bit nicer to Wizards, even though I'm maybe not getting what I want.
I don't know about that. Like, okay, so here's something that, and I'm not trying to defend Wizards, but just the way I develop my worldview is kind of like I try not to attribute malice to that which can be explained by incompetence.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're incompetent. But maybe they're just so focused on, could it be that they're so focused on EDH or Commander that everything else is just pushed out?
I do. And I think one of the biggest things as well, and this is pure speculation, by the way, I have nothing to back this up,
Okay.
is that the way I see it, the most likely outcome, and what I've seen in other esports projects, other esports teams, all throughout esports, and I'm just assuming this is true in Wizards as well, is that generally the people in high positions of power and decision making are actually not invested in the game. Like they don't play it. They actually don't care about the game itself. Like they are the business guy, right?
So they're detached and they just care about numbers.
Exactly. Like they probably got hired because they did some crazy great thing in like traditional sports or something. Like I've seen that a lot. Working through esports television and working with.
And they're thinking they can rework that Magic, pun intended, for Magic.
Exactly. And what you get are a bunch of people who are disconnected. So the way that I see the vast majority of Wizards employees, like the people I've met, they love the game. They're passionate about the game. Like they love the game so much that they wanted to go work for the game that they love and make it better.
But they're not in those positions of true power.
Yes, exactly. They are not in a position of true power, right? The people making decisions that they just have to follow, otherwise, well, they're out of a job, right? Have no interest in these games whatsoever. And that's the way I look at it. I don't know if that's true or not, but and again, I'm not saying that they're bad people or anything like that. They're evil. That's just the reality.
You're saying they're just working within that system.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's just the reality of it, right?
And they have certain incentives, right? And maybe one of their incentives is just to stay employed and work on this thing that I love. But then as a result, maybe I'm taking not getting compensated super well compared to a rival corporation. Maybe I'm like making sacrifices where I'm just being told like you don't have the budget to do this.
Yep, exactly. And Wizards is Wizards as an example is they have so many moving parts, so many different departments that it is normal for things to fall through the cracks. But the other side of that is that they're a $1 billion company. They brag about how much money they make.
Right.
Okay.
So throw a bone, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then some of these things are just necessary. Like you need to have good communication. You need to like fix your shit with Magic Arena, right? Otherwise, Magic Arena is leading to a dead end, in my opinion. And they've done the vast majority of the work. They've done all the marketing. They made the sets. Everything's there, but they're lacking the polishing of everything, right? The final touches. The final touches are oftentimes the most important, in my opinion.
The final touches never get reflected in cold hard numbers, and I've seen this in many different industries, especially in tech, where something will just be rationalized as like that's not important, but sometimes it's the last mile of the customer experience, whether it's the customer being a creator or the customer being actual customer buying Magic cards that actually matters. But they just don't feel that it is as important because I've done 80% of it. So intellectually, it's like, who cares about the remaining?
Exactly. Like who cares about the last 1% or whatever, right? Yeah. But for me, I think that's the most important part because that's what people carry on. That's what people remember. That's what people take away a lot of the times. So, for example, so my delivery food system, whenever I order delivery food, right, my experience would be 10 times better if after they deliver my food, they don't call me. Okay? Like, I can see in the app that it's delivered. I check the please do not call me thing. But they still call me. They tell me your food's here. I'm like, I know it's here, right? Like I saw the notification, right? And I'm like,
maybe they could just text you or just
I guess
it's already in there.
Obviously, I'm like exaggerating by like how much that pisses me off or whatever. But my experience would have been much better if they didn't call me.
If they did what you told them to do or not.
Yeah, exactly. Like what I asked them to do, and I'm not saying that that's the same for everything, but some of these just small adjustments to things. So say Magic Arena, right? I don't understand the landing page. So you come into Magic Arena, there's like 50% of the screen or whatever is like a newsreel thing, right? And you can't even see like what formats are in Magic Arena. Sure. And they'll add a new format back to Magic Arena, whether it's a flashback draft or whatever, and it won't be on the front page. Like there won't be
in that sub menu.
It's like you have to go in and dig for it, and unless people are watching my stream, they don't know it's there. Yeah. Right? And I'm just like, what is this company doing? Do they hate money? Right? People are always like, Wizards are greedy, and I'm like, no, Wizards hates money. Like they leave the amount of if you can see from my perspective how much money they leave on the table. Yeah. Like you will understand that they hate money.
They're just not optimized. I've been there. I've worked in these companies where like someone really, maybe myself or other people really want to push something through.
Yep.
But they're just it's just priority number 10 and it just never gets done.
Exactly.
It's hard.
That's life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. Like what are from Magic the game perspective, like what are some of this can kind of be like a year in review.
Okay.
Right? Like what are some of the highlights and lowlights for you? Maybe let's start with the highlights since we've been shitting on Wizards for a while.
So the highlight of me this year, and again, I'm like 99.9% a limited player. This year I also qualified to both the Pro Tour and also Mythic Championship number 2.
Oh, sweet!
And I forgot about that actually.
Okay.
Because it was so unmemorable.
Okay.
So all right. So the Pro Tour. So I was in Bangkok, and the Pro Tour was in Philadelphia, right? But first of all, I think the entire trip would have cost me like something like $4 or $5 grand, right? Mm-hmm. For all the everything.
That's still a big chunk of change.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of shit. Like I don't make that much, I'll just throw out a number here. On a good month, from all the Twitch stuff, including sponsorships, like I'll make like 10K. Okay, on a good month, right?
But you have to really work.
Yeah.
Your ass off that month, and it's not like month to month. Right?
Exactly. Like it's not always stable. So that would have been a huge commitment for me. the format was Phyrexia Albi-1, which I was talking shit about.
You said it's a bad format, right?
Yep, exactly. But I've never been on the Pro Tour before. Like, I've never gone to a Pro Tour event, so I would have loved to. I shot Wizards.
How much is that experience?
Exactly.
Worth, right?
And I shot a message over to Wizards, and okay.
But can you comp a little?
Yeah. I was like, hey, is there anything that is there any way that we can figure it out so that my trip's a little bit cheaper? I'm down to do work at the event itself. Like, I'm down to either lead a seminar or like be there for signings or anything, whatever, right? And I get a message back, and they're like, no, sorry. And I'm like, I needed a little bit more here, right? I needed a little bit more than the no sorry or whatever.
Maybe a little more in terms of even like bedside manner, like even like, oh, you know, some more rationalization would help, right?
And then I was like, well, then can you guys, like, is there any way possible to defer my invite, right? Because Philly wasn't possible. Maybe in the future there's gonna be Asian Pro Tour or something, and I can go to that. And they were like, I think to that one, I think I didn't even get a response actually. I think. And I'm like, all right, well, I know I'm not the biggest streamer or whatever, but I'm still like top 5 Magic streamer, right? And you know, isn't this a great way for you to say, hey, look, you know, the thing that we said about Magic Arena when it first came out, you can do it, right? Like, okay, like,
look, you can't really do it because it's going to cost you like $5,000 to go there.
Exactly. But what I'm saying, like, look at Deathsie. Deathsie started being a Magic streamer. He played all the time streaming, became one of the biggest Magic streamers, and then qualified to the Pro Tour. Right? Like, qualified to the Pro Tour, qualified to Michigan Championship 2. And isn't this the story that you want to sell to people? Right? Like, this is exactly like what you want in the first place. And here it is, your golden ticket.
And the sad answer is no, because the people who worked on the esports part are no longer around.
Yeah, or whatever,
they don't
right?
have the same incentives. Yeah. Or that person who answered no to you, like, just didn't have decision-making power anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, so I ended up not going to the Pro Tour, but I did play the Mythic Championship 2 because I could do that from home.
Yeah.
I didn't have a great reason to not play in it, right?
Yeah.
But that event, I will describe it as... man, that was like the most miserable...
That was in 2019, right?
No, it was this year.
Oh, you're saying like... Okay, because I'm getting it mixed up with the Mythic Championship. They called it like, you know how there was the Mythic Invitational that Menguchi won? And then there was a whole series of MCs during the 2019 and into the COVID era.
Yeah.
Similar names, sorry. I got that mixed
up. Sorry. I got the name wrong. I think it was called the Arena Championship 2.
Yeah.
Arena
the Mythic Championships were from that.
So anyways, this event... Zero marketing.
Yeah.
No one knew it was on.
I only knew about it because you tweeted it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like a $250,000 tournament, I think. And viewership on Twitch was like 4,000 viewers.
Okay.
Right? I'm like, why don't we just host it on my channel? I think we're going to get more viewers, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so just kind of an embarrassing event all around. And it was Phyrexia Albi-1 draft. Okay, 3 rounds of that. Then I believe 6 rounds of historic alchemy. Okay. And you know how much I love constructed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And anyways, so it was 2 streamers, the Nerdy Steve and Ali Eldrazi. Ali Eldrazi. They basically gave me the decks, and I was like, all right, dude, like, I don't know, like, just pick one for me. And then they picked one for me. I submitted it. And the tournament was wild because I obviously don't play the format, right? I practiced my deck a little bit, maybe like 2 hours or something, right?
Okay.
And what I had to do, because there were so many decks, so many alchemy cards, right? And these alchemy cards are all like a paragraph and a half. Like, some of them have a scroll bar. And what I had to do was that whenever we got paired with an opponent for the Arena Championship, you had like a 3 to 5 minute check-in window, okay?
Yeah.
And at that moment, I could see what deck they're running. So I would pull up their deck, read everything, run through it. Frantically read it all. Then, all right, first try every single time, go in. That's it. That's all I could do.
Wow.
Okay. And so it was a miracle. That tournament, I think out of 32 players, I got 13th place. Okay. 13th place. I bombed the draft portion of it, then I killed it in the historic portion.
Ironic, right?
Yeah, exactly. Super ironic. And
what was your secret? Do you think it was just variance within historic or what?
I mean, in general, like, okay, so in the past, I have played a lot of constructed, and I would say
you play a lot of Magic.
So you just play a lot of Magic. But these days, I choose not to because I don't have to. I guess, like, okay, back in the day at my local game store, like maybe the first 1 to 3 weeks, you get drafts fired off. Okay, after that, people aren't interested in drafting anymore, right? People are done.
Off.
People are done. So then I have to play some constructed. You know, like I have these cards. I don't want to play constructed, but there's nothing else to do.
This is really in the old days, right?
Yeah. Back in the old days, like I've been playing Magic now for like 11 plus years or something. But these days, I don't have to, right? Mm-hmm. Like I only will play it if someone basically forces me, right? Either they pay me somehow, I qualify the Arena Championship. And the funny thing about the qualification for both the Pro Tour and the Arena Championship 2 is that I accidentally qualified for it. Okay.
What do you mean?
Okay, so often as Magic Arena has these events, right? I never know what they are. Like qualifier, play-in, weekend.
As
like
you said, the interface isn't great to even find this stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is that the way that they name everything, it just sounds all the same. Right? It's like think about the format.
That's why you call it Mythic Championship.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like who knows?
It's
interchangeable. It's like there's like this event name generator, like the Wu-Tang name generator. They just use it to randomize.
Exactly. So I played in an event. It was a Brothers War sealed into draft. Okay, and I thought it was an Arena Open. I thought it was an Arena Open that I was going to win like money at the end or whatever. And so actually in this event, I had a sick run. And it was funny because in Brothers War, I'm always doing the crazy shit, right? Like crazy decks. I was playing like double door to nothingness deck. I was playing there was a card called Over the Top or something that like basically just like flipped your deck. It was an unplayable Magic card. I played the shit out of it. Mm-hmm. It was double door to nothingness. Anyways, so in that tournament and in events like those, I generally play to win. Okay, for once in a while, I play to win. Mm-hmm. So people were like, "Oh, Deathsie can play normal decks," and I'm like, "Dude, what do you mean? Like, you don't need to learn a normal deck. It's just there, right? Yeah. Like, you don't waste your time on that shit, you know." Yeah. So, anyways, I had a really sick run. I ended up going 14-0. Okay, 7-0 day one, 7-0 next day or whatever. Yeah. And I believe I didn't drop a game. Okay, I believe I didn't drop a game.
Really?
I believe so. And in the end, I was like, where's my money?
Yeah.
Right? I was like, what is this shit?
There's a screen that says, congrats, you had fun.
Yeah. And it didn't even say on there. It said, like, you qualified to something or whatever.
Oh.
And then my viewers...
Like a satellite or a qualifier to something else.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I
This is a good thing about Twitch chat. They can now explain something, maybe.
Exactly. So, Twitch chat explained to me, they're like, Deathsie, qualified to the Pro Tour and the Arena Championship.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, first of all, chat, like, you're obviously trolling me because there's no way that there's a qualifier that qualifies you to 2 big tournaments.
Yeah,
like,
I've never heard that.
It doesn't even make sense as a design. Yeah. Right? Like, that would never pass.
Yeah, double qualification.
Exactly. Anyways, so after a while, like, a bunch of people were saying, I was like, yeah, it's true. But isn't it better if I just won money? Like, because think about it, right? The Arena Championship 2, it took me... I had to prep for that for quite a long time, and it was, like, a lot of stress, and I had to play in the tournament as well, right? I think it was a 2-day tournament or something. Mm-hmm. And then after all that, and I high-rolled to 13th place out of 32 players, right? High-roll of the year or whatever, because I don't play Historic. Like, I've never watched a single game. I don't know what any of these alchemy cards are. After all that, I think I won $5,000, which is if it was an Arena Open, I would have just won that without having to play anything.
It was just a long way to get that.
Yeah, exactly. It was a long way, and I had to like think about planning my Philadelphia trip and like getting denied from Wizards. And I'm like, okay, actually, in the end, it was just worse than the
All right, so the highlight here became kind of a low light, less than highlight.
Yeah. Anyways, like I don't really live with many regrets. I'm just saying, like, it
happened.
It was a weird experience.
Yeah,
but it was still pretty cool. If you take the magic part out.
Okay. Are there just general highlights from streaming, or like it doesn't have to be magic related?
That's interesting. I feel like there are a lot, probably. I mean, I've gotten closer to a lot of people. I've worked on myself a lot. I've become a person who, other people might perceive it as egotistical or whatever, but I just am trying to be less apologetic about being myself, right? I just want to, like, why do we need to make life so hard, right? Life is already hard. Why am I creating my own problems as well on top of all that, right?
Okay.
So I'm just trying to get better at that. Like, for example, you miss somebody, message them. Shoot them a message.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? You waiting for them to message you? Like, life doesn't work like that. People are busy as well. If it's on your mind, just message somebody.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of little things like that. But yeah, I think that it's pretty important, like, because the way that I look at it is that the best way to take care of other people is actually to take care of yourself. Because, well, I mean, if you're in good shape, physical, mental, whatever else, then that relieves a lot of pressure from other people worrying about you, from other people needing to, I don't know, like, just like stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that my friends and other people don't think of it that way, but that's the way that I look at it. But yeah, I think everybody should try to take care of themselves the best.
Was there something that happened that crystallized it for you?
There might have been. I can't really recall any specific moment. But yeah, it's been a very eventful and interesting year. This is a bit of a side quest, I guess, but I'm quite happy about it as well, that I reconciled with my parents.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
I know things were not great in the past, right?
Yeah, so long story short, over my entire life growing up, so this is like before high school and stuff. My parents and I, my dad specifically, we would not see eye to eye on like most things. Okay, and a lot of times it got to a point where he was so angry that he couldn't get through to me, like in his vision, right? That I got disowned from my family. Okay, like Asian style disownment, right? And anyway, so the last time my parents spoke before we made up was during COVID. During the start of COVID, my parents and I had a really big argument as well, and once again I got disowned from my family or whatever. And this time, my dad was like, it's serious this time. Like, I'm not joking. Like, do not come back. I do not want to see you again in this lifetime, kind of thing, right? And I was like, oh, I've seen this before, kind of thing. And I'm like, well, that's a great excuse for me to go out and travel the world, right? And so I took that negative event as like a positive thing. And I was like, I've been wanting to like go travel, go do things for a long time, but I've just been comfortable. I've been lazy, So I took that as like kind of a sign of sorts. Not that I'm that superstitious or whatever.
But maybe it's an opportunity.
Yeah, like an opportunity, right? So I feel like we can sort of change our realities by the way we look at something, right? So that was a really big thing for me. But anyways, getting back to the story, getting back to recent times, is that we ended up making up. They came to Thailand, stayed with me for a week or whatever, and I mean, we didn't talk that much about our differences, but it's like we kind of understand.
Yeah, I know what it is like. I mean, Asian household, it's not the most expressive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
there's an understanding, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. Where it's like, why does it matter if we disagree? That's normal. Everybody disagrees, right? But you can still get along. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of have that philosophy with everything, right?
That's good. Yeah, I mean, that's so important. I mean, you strike me as someone who's quite independent-minded, and I'm sure you must understand too that relationships change over time. It might be good now, it might not be great later. It kind of has a ebb and flow.
Yeah.
You got to just be able to maybe like you said, just be yourself and think about and watch out for yourself during whatever time it is.
Exactly. Like so two things that I feel like I'm very strongly. One is a functionalist, right? Just like things need to work. Okay, things need to work. If things aren't working properly, then we have a problem. Okay. Secondly, is that I think that the life course is very long. Well, hopefully, right? But people change throughout the years. Sometimes we change from like minute to minute. You know, like sometimes we'll think one thing and the next thing, oh, okay, well, no, like I think this way or whatever. So that's just a normal thing that people change, and we have, and I don't know, like at least having this understanding, it means that we're not caught off guard when something happens. And I think relationships are like that as well. It's hard to expect like getting married or whatever, and then throughout your lifetime that you're both going to stay the same. Like you don't even want that, right? Like you want people to be continue growing, and a lot of times we just grow in different directions. It's a normal. It's just a normal thing about life.
That's something I wanted to ask you, is because you're quite nomadic and you're quite fluid in terms of physically where you are. Do you have goals with regards to like romantic relationships or finding a partner, or is that something that I don't know if it's something you consciously want to do or be in that kind of relationship, or are you thinking about that like kind of more in a fluid way, or are you thinking about it in different ways?
Yeah, so I will say that the main way that I think about it, and this doesn't only apply to relationships either, is that I basically imagine the worst case scenario for a lot of things. So say like relationships, like okay, if I don't find anyone, I'm gonna die alone. Okay, and I imagine this, and if I can rationalize and come to terms with the worst case scenario, then it's all uphill from here or whatever, right? Like everything is good after that. Like if I'm okay with the worst case scenario, then everything else is just a bonus, you know. So yeah, when it comes to relationships, I don't feel the pressure, right? I don't feel the pressure. Part of that is, I guess, being a guy as well.
Is that another way to say that you feel fairly fulfilled and happy right now?
I am, yeah. For the most part, I feel like every day I find fulfillment and happiness in just like talking to my friends, getting some good vegetarian food, have like going to bed, like my bed sheets being the way that I want. Like there's just so much in life to be grateful for, and we take a lot of these things for granted. Right. So sometimes my friends are like, Deathsie, you're very easily impressed, and I'm like, you guys aren't impressed enough. You know. So yeah, it's like just a lot of appreciation for the very basic things, very very normal things. Like sometimes I'll look at my phone and I'll just be like, dude, we live in an awesome day and age where like this phone can basically just do anything. It's like one of the most powerful things. I was having a chat with one of my friends the other day. He's a streamer named Tyler WOTC, and we were talking about, all right, if you had to pick between living in a world with magic, right? Not magic the card game, like magical powers, right? Or technology, which one would you choose?
I think it's a trick question, right? Because I think you're implying that we basically have things now that people in the past would look at, and it's just basically magic, like having that supercomputer in your pocket, having certain powers through technology. It's essentially become magic.
Yep, exactly. So the conclusion that we came to is that if you look at all of the fantasy and like all of the fantasy stories, right, and movies that are written, I think that technology that we already have today, and it's getting better, technology that we have today is actually better than all those forms of magic, right? But why don't we appreciate it? like we don't look at things like that, right?
Yeah. I think we don't appreciate it because humans just were very short term, and we get very wound up in one thing that then just dominates our thinking. Like if, for example, I don't know, insert terrible scenario that will happen to me 5 minutes from now, I have to be focused on that. And it's just kind of it's how we've survived as a species, but also just we have to selectively try to overcome that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So You mentioned Phyrexial OB1 being like a terrible set. What are some other Magic related lowlights?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. So this year, outside of that one, I think Streets of New Capenna was last year, right?
I think it was.
Okay.
It was last
year. And this year, so Phyrexial OB1 is the worst. And I will say March of the Machine was the absolute best. Like, March of the Machine was so good that after the 3 months, I wasn't even finished with it yet. You know, like, I'll bring it back. Like, just push off the other set for another month. And another reason I think the Magic Arena is dropping the ball is that after that set rotated out, it has never returned to Magic Arena a single time. As the, you know, not only my favorite, like, basically the vocal favorite from everybody else as well.
Do you think that's because Martian Machine does it actually have the numbers to back it up being a great draft set? Or is it just like people look fondly back at it as if it was like a cult movie, you know, that nobody watched?
I think that it did have the numbers to back it up. Okay. And also that...
so it really is just weird.
People liked it for a very good reason, yeah. So what I'm saying is that people, like, a lot of the people who make decisions at Wizards literally don't play
That's where you're coming up with your thesis
exactly.
of like they're disconnected.
Right? Exactly. Because, like, none of these things make sense if you're a player at all, right? Like, even if you just play a little bit, like, I'm not saying that you need to, you know, pick up an EDH friend group and go out to every tournament or whatever and, like, study the game. But if during a pre-release, go to a pre-release, you know?
Yeah.
Open up some packs.
Yeah.
Read some cards. You don't need to get good at it.
That's interesting because I was recently talking to, I promise this is related.
Okay.
I was talking to Todd Anderson. He was talking about the importance of having a panel or committee of actual Magic players to tell Wizards about what's the word on the street on a format, like a constructed format.
I see.
I'm wondering if that should apply also to limited. Like, there should be some, maybe it makes sense to not have them look purely at like arena numbers or whatever they can pull up on their own, and not just based on how like in-house design thinks about the sets, or and not just rely on surveys, but actually like an enfranchised player base such as yourself that and I'm nominating you, I'm not saying you have to be the one, but like, shouldn't there be some sort of third-party panel that actually tells Wizards like this is working, this is not working?
Okay, so I think that while that could be a good idea, it feels like a huge time commitment for everybody and really hard to coordinate, right? And it doesn't set realistic expectations. So for example, like, you have Pleasant Kenobi, like if Pleasant Kenobi was on there, and he went in and he's like, all right, well, I say all this stuff, and then Voxy chimes in, she puts her opinions, my opinions as well. What are the expectations here? It's like, okay, well, the reality...
So then they also have to sort through it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the reality is, okay, does that change much of what they do? Does that mean that they have more ability or greater incentive to change things? Because at the end of the day, okay, we say all this stuff, but you still have to convince the person who's in charge.
Right.
So why not just hire Deathsie?
For all we know, they may already know what needs to be done. They just didn't convince the person in charge. So it's like not having an additional input from you doesn't necessarily change the game.
Exactly. So the way that I look at it is that Wizards of the Coast does not need more segregation, and especially like segregated decision making as well. What they need is to hire me, and I'll go up and I will basically try my best to convince them, to, you know, maybe I can be the voice or whatever. Other people other people give me their opinions and stuff, and I can gather that, then present it to them, right, in a way, and back it up with like, all right, we project these numbers, all right, we project that this will be a positive increase in the Magic Arena player base, right, for these reasons, and convince them in language that they can understand. Right? This will make you more money. Okay? And then we'll double check in the back and whatever. That's a better way to do it, I think.
So you actually think it makes sense if you were hired into the company as a contractor or as a part-time, full-time, whatever, but just like be able to give those inputs.
Exactly.
Right? I work from within the machine.
Yep, I think that's a much better system. And obviously it doesn't have to be me. Whoever who thinks you're qualified or...
and then the incentives are lined up because then you're getting compensated for it. That's your job.
Exactly. Exactly. And we can even do compensation in a way where it's like, I only get paid if my claims are true. And with these changes, that we actually see an increase in players from the previous month.
So there could be some sort of like results based.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Like, I want to give you guys money. I want to make money too.
So when you interviewed Dave Humphreys, you kind of half serious, half jokingly asked him if you could, if you were qualified to join the design team. Is that something that you're going to try to work on more actively and lobby for yourself?
That's interesting because I'm currently, like, I don't know what's going to happen with it, but at this point in time, I'm currently in talks with not Wizards, but actually other games. Okay, other card games as like coming on for design and stuff. But I really do value my freedom, so it would always be like some sort of a remote contractor type thing.
Sure.
Right? But
you wouldn't want to be like living in Seattle and going into the office every day.
Exactly. Like if I need to be there a few times a year for certain things, like that's fine.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so it's weird. I feel like I have a lot of skill sets that are very valuable in different areas, but it really just depends on who has the sort of courage or like has a discussion
to like
to
make
come
a
talk
bet
to
on
me.
you as a talent.
Exactly. And I mean, I've said a lot of crazy shit over the years. I mean, I said a lot of crazy shit on interviews today already, but usually, well, I back it up with results, right? Like, I'll say some crazy stuff about a format, right? And then, okay, I'm rank 1 mythic again, right? Like, it's a very weird thing. Like, I like to put my money where my mouth is, right? So yeah, sure. I'll say some crazy stuff, but
I mean, you're not saying this as a bronze level for a limited player or something.
Exactly. So I mean, I've done this with my entire life, basically. So back in university, okay. So while I was doing my master's degree in London, I was doing my master's degree full time. I was a full-time professional Hearthstone gamer as well. I flew out on the weekends to commentate Magic again.
Right.
Sorry, Hearthstone.
You started your esports career when you were in Europe, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes, exactly. So it was during my undergrad. But yeah, and then at that time, I also did full-time television co-host from an esports TV show there in London, King's Cross. So I did all these things, right? And at first, like people were telling me, Deathsie, you can't do all these things because like that's just not like a normal person can't take the workload or whatever.
Specialize or
like you're supposed to specialize and focus and stuff. And so and you know, like I understand where they're coming from and that they're not wrong or whatever. But I ended up graduating top of my class. I never missed a lecture. I never missed my flight. I never missed a single event that I was hired to go to. I was never too tired to go to a TV station. So yeah, I was like, just all right. It seems crazy, but if I think I can do it, like, and if I say I can do it, I can do it.
Where do you think that comes from? Just the kind of self-organization and I dare say some sort of work ethic.
Okay. That's a good question. I don't know, actually.
This is always a tough one. It's like, you know, when I ask someone, like, why are you you? Like, why like, how am I supposed to know, right?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I don't know really where it comes from. I think there's some amount of my personality being a control freak, some amount of it being like OCD.
Functionalist, you say.
Yeah, functionalist is a better way to put it, right? There are certain aspects of me that I've refined over the years, like my control freakness. You know, I've gotten to a point where it's like a lot more functional, is not like overbearing to other people. A lot of it's philosophy, I think. I like to read a lot of philosophy. I like to theorize a lot about life. I like to sort of question the norm, because the way I think about it, and I've thought about this from a very young age as well, if you want to be successful in whether it's a game or whatever else, why are you listening to the common opinion? Right? The common opinion, everybody believes in that, and that's average, right? If you want to be above average, well, yeah, you have to think differently.
The average of average is average.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the way I always came from, the philosophy that I always came from. And so...
But then the question then becomes, where does that confidence or self-belief come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so it comes off as confident, but there have been many times in my life where, you know, I'm uncertain of myself. Like I doubt myself or whatever. It's a normal human thing. But you know, I figured out ways, philosophies and stuff to get through those as well, coming to certain understandings, and whether they're true or not, like I believe them, but I don't believe in it like absolutely or anything, right? I'm like, okay, well, this is the best I came up with, and it's good enough for now.
So it's a kind of flexibility and maybe even taking a lot of shots. Because I have to assume that you didn't succeed at everything in life.
Oh no,
you
no,
have
for
to
sure
take
not.
shots, and maybe some people just never take enough shots.
Yep, I think so as well. I would say that if I compare myself to friends, so my friends always say that I'm the poorest smart person they know.
Yeah, I
Right?
remember we talked about that.
Yeah, and so, you know, like by a lot of metrics, you know, I'm single, I'm not making like millions or whatever. Like
Mhm.
I am not successful to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But these things are very, you know, I found a lot of things that I value,
Mhm.
and actually a lot of the things I see that other people, you know, are striving to get, like good real relationships with friends or something like that, right? And so I see myself as somebody who has gotten a lot of like very great stuff, like, and I have like very extreme gratitude for the things I have. So you know, yeah, maybe one day I'll be a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. But no, who cares? Who cares? Like, what's the difference, really? What's the difference?
Mhm. It's in the mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, this might be a good place to wrap it up. I mean, thank you so much for sharing your year in review and just being I just being real. I really enjoyed, you know, all the times that we talked. Thank you also for kind of helping me through some shit this year that I
All
was
good, man.
working through, and it's all about perspective. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I mean, the way that I see it is that you work super hard. You know, the numbers might not be there for now, but everybody starts off like that. Everybody starts off with low numbers or whatever, and yeah.
I think I'm also trying to. Uh, sorry, I'm going
No, it's all good.
beyond, but it's like, like I think it's also about just one thing I learned this year is just like the more you're chasing something, the farther away it
Yeah,
gets.
I think so.
And I think you need to figure out a way, or I need to figure out a way to make it healthy by not being all about these external measures.
Mhm.
There needs to be some, maybe like what you figured out is kind of like there needs to be some like intrinsic enjoyment of the thing
Sure.
in the moment that has to matter, because if you're just chasing like some sort of external validation,
That's true.
it's not that sustainable.
I mean, it's literally never enough. You know,
Yeah.
like first,
And it's like, what's the next benchmark?
exactly. So it'll be so like throughout my streaming career, for example, to be like, okay, my goal when I first started streaming was to have 100 viewers. You know, I was like, dude, I can't even dream about it, right? I can't even imagine that.
If
Right now.
only I could get to that.
Yeah, if only it gets to that, like that's already good enough for me.
Yeah.
All right, I got 100.
Mhm.
Okay, it wasn't good enough. What's the next benchmark? 300. Okay, next benchmark 600.
Mhm.
Right. And during like the COVID years, my average was, I think, like the highest I had was like 1.4K average.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, Cookies has this many viewers,
Mhm.
right? Why am I only a 1.4K viewer streamer when I could be like 2,000, 3,000 viewer streamer, right? And so like what I'm saying is that there's no end to it, right? Like no matter what benchmark you start from, and the same goes with money. I think like it's never enough or whatever. So okay, well actually, what I have is actually pretty good. You know,
You want enough to be comfortable, but not, you don't need to, or is that true? I don't know.
no, yeah, I don't think that's true. Like, just make do with what you have. Make do with what you have.
Okay.
Be grateful for it. The numbers will come and go.
Yeah.
Find ways to enjoy it without any of the bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey man, I mean, it's been great. I wish you a better 2024 than you had this year, and I'm happy to hear about some of the highlights. So yeah, thanks for
Next time.
yeah, we'll do it again.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, James.
Thank you for listening to Humans of Magic. You've made it to the end. Thanks so much. You're awesome. If you'd like to support the show, there are 2 ways to do so. The first way is the most powerful. Tell a friend. Tell them to check out Humans of Magic. I'd love it if you could spread the word. The second way is to join the Humans of Magic Patreon at patreon.com/humansofmagic. Patreon is the best way to directly support the show from a financial perspective. For as little as $2 a month, you can support me and join the Discord. It gives me the power to keep cranking out new episodes with your favorite magic people. If you want to go the $5 support route, you'll get a digital copy of the Humans of Magic book. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you, as always, making it all the way to the end, and we'll see you next time.